Hour 2 Overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan, Gerry's percentages in about a half an hour. Craig Button coming up here in a moment. Craig, loving what he's seeing out of the Habs, loving what he's seeing out of Nick Suzuki lately.
Oh,
and we'll catch up with Craig and get his take on that and more, including the Leafs and Avalanche tonight. Noodles, you were there last night at the Bell Center. It was a great game.
It was. And, you know, when you look at Montreal and some of their, call it younger players that are pushing through, like Suzuki's, he's a hell of a player. Like, I think when we watched him, you weren't sure what his ceiling was going to be. Mm-hmm. But, I think he's 7 points away from his career high. He's a really, dominant force as far as controlling the play. Like, he's not a burner, but he's really good at strong on the wall, strong on pucks. He's got some it's Bergeron to him. He's got some Bergeron as far as his vision and stuff. And the Slafkovsky kid, he's big. He's a horse. Like, they've got some guys that are coming. And what we kept hearing about yesterday morning was this Demidov. Like, they've got some players in the minors that are going to push through here too very soon. So they're in a good place. Looking pretty good. They're looking very good.
It's all house money, man.
I think it would be awesome, though, if they pulled through and got it done and got into the playoffs this year.
I don't think they are, though.
You still don't think the Habs are
I'm just saying it would be beneficial. Why not? Because if you don't, then next year it's like, well, we're under the gun. We better make it now.
Yeah.
You'd be putting so much into the bank if you just got in this year and got it done. And if next year it doesn't go your way, you're like, it's a bit of a step back. We kind of expected it. It would just do yourself big-time favor.
Yeah, I've got to be clear. Like, I want them to make it. I think it's a great story. I think, look at all 7 Canadian teams are playing meaningful hockey, and it looks, right now six of them can make it. Yeah, huge win. Like, I'm happy for them. When I look at Montreal, I think they pushed through, but there's been a lot of inconsistency. What do they got? 15 games left, 16 games. Like, they're still, they got to avoid a 5-game dump. And we've seen them go through stretches where it's really good and then it's been poor. And that, if they can avoid that, I think they're a playoff team. But I don't know. We just talked about it. I thought the Rangers were going to sneak in at that last spot. They just don't look good.
That's
look
my
connected.
issue. It's a process of elimination.
Yep.
How can you have faith in the Rangers? They've shown you who they are all season. And Columbus is starting to fade. They've lost a lot of games lately. Detroit's doing it again. They were awful, and then they were red hot for 10 games, and now they can't win. And Detroit just looks like they're going to fade into the background. I think the Habs are better than the Islanders. I think Boston's put up the white flag for the most part. So it very well could be, again, there's a lot of games left, a lot of points up for grabs. It will likely jockey, and it will come down to the final week. There's no question about that. And that's where maybe the Rangers will have the upper hand because their veterans snap out of it, and they're comfortable in that position, and they take advantage. That very well could happen.
Right.
But right now, I can't sit here and say I feel better about the other teams, more than I feel positive about Montreal.
And they deserve it. Like, that's the one thing.
They've earned this, yeah.
Watching them live last night, like, even a kid like that Heineman, like the burner. The guy who's looked really good is Newhook. He can fly. Like, I initially didn't think he was a massive fit there. I was like, it didn't look right. Maybe just, comfort level.
It looked like a guy that would be cycled in and out.
And honest to God, he can fly, like flat out skate, and he's got some skill. So there is some real pieces coming together for them. Laine's Laine. He's
power play specialist right now.
Man, dangerous.
But he can do it, man.
13 power play goals, and I believe MJ and Muddy were there last night doing the Montreal side. I think they've got like a tongue-in-cheek heat map from where this guy scored from, and it's literally just that
side
dot.
of the rink, there on the dot.
Yeah. So, but I'm happy that the city's buzzing. Hayes, you always talk about the Bell Center. It's one of the best atmospheres. It really is. Like, it's a great rink to watch a game in. The atmosphere, the food. I didn't have a hot dog. I didn't head down that direction.
Didn't get up there.
Well,
I bet you MJ scarfed down 3 and took 2 to the press box.
I think you're probably right. And,
but it was a good game last night.
Yeah, it was. It was a really wild third period. It was, it was the Habs, a lot of their veteran players. And that was a big message as well by management. They didn't sell at the trade deadline. They signed Jake Evans, and they acquired that Carey a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, and he's
solid
been a
player.
big improvement for them. But they kept their veteran guys. They didn't move off Dvorak, and he had 4 points last night, 3 or 4 points last night.
He's come alive recently, and
yeah.
And the thing is that Savard, like, if you traded Savard, maybe you get pennies on the dollar for him, but he's helped. That young
veteran guy,
that
French
Matheson
Canadian,
Matheson, he slides under the radar. He's a really good player.
He'll be comfortable down the stretch too, right? And this is where I think you have to augment the young talent and the somewhat inexperienced with, like, Josh Anderson's a big game player. He has been his whole career.
Yeah.
Brendan Gallagher as well. Like, if they're healthy, those guys can help them get over the top, and I think that's pretty significant that they're still there and they're a part of the program.
Yeah.
Here he is joining us on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Here's Craig Button. Craig, I'm pretty sure I know where you stand, but you're a believer in the Habs making the playoffs. Is that where it currently stands, or what?
Yeah, I'm a believer. I think that they've proven, I think, to a lot of people that they can get there. Since the Four Nations break, they have the best record in hockey. Their first line is the best first line in hockey. And their goaltender has been the top goalie, or one of the top goalies. I mean, all that adds up, and they're playing well. And certainly when you talk about a team that has found its way, it's been really, really important. When you start out the season and say, we want to be in the mix, we want to be playing meaningful games in April or in March, and your team shows your manager and your coach that you're doing everything to be in that fight. If he would have traded any of those guys, he would have just pulled out the rug from his team, and his words would have meant nothing.
Yeah.
Craig, before we get to the Hudson, the defenseman, before you came on, we were talking about Nick Suzuki. You've watched his progression. I think there was a lot of people that felt like he had like the Bergeron instincts, all of that. But I mean, has he pushed through his ceiling, or do you believe like he is a star player, just a very well-rounded one? What do you see in Nick Suzuki?
Well, I see Patrice Bergeron, Jamie, and when you watch, all Patrice Bergeron did was play at an exceptionally high level every single game, every single year, until he decided, I don't think I can play at that level anymore, so I'm going to retire. Patrice Bergeron could play right now in the NHL, but he had a standard that he said, I'm not going below it. Nick Suzuki has that same standard. And you watch him play, there's not an area of the game that he cannot excel at, and he cannot have a major impact in a positive way on. And all the way back to junior, that's how he was. That's what he did. He was the MVP in the OHL playoffs, and he just like Patrice, he just goes about it quietly. He doesn't do it with a lot of flash and dash. But you're Marty St. Louis, just like every coach that had Bergeron, you knew exactly what you were getting every single shift. And that's what Nick Suzuki does. And, he's not in the McKinnon, Matthews, McDavid, Draisaitl class. I mean, I know what he's trying to say that. But nor was Bergeron in that elite category of top centers. But that next category, tell me who doesn't want Nick Suzuki on their team. And it would be the same people that say they don't want Patrice Bergeron, which it would shock me if anybody was that stupid to say that.
So in the last minute, Craig, you've mentioned three different guys in different times. Montembault, Marty St. Louis, and Nick Suzuki. Who do you think is the most important with 15 games left to these guys to actually do it?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jeff. Marty has been able to really nurture the team, at the same time develop them, be patient with them, but he's also put demands on them. And I think that's important for a coach, especially with a young team. You can't just always say, oh, they're kids, they're going to learn. Marty got to a point where he said, no, like move to the next stage. But that's what's in place. So I put him third. Sam Montembault has been excellent. The goal that went in last night, the third goal to put Montreal down 3-2, that was a sting. That was one that you're going, oh no, is that the one that's going to sink you? And then they come right back and they tie it up, and then they go ahead and ultimately win the game. And I think that speaks a lot about the team. I think that Sam Montembault is a big part of it. They're not great defensively, Jeff, and I've talked about Suzuki and how good he is. I think Montembault being a steady presence in the net, being consistent, is the key for this to carry on. Because there's still much a work in progress defensively. They still give up some chances. They're still a little bit loose, and then some of that experience on the blue line comes through. So I would say Montembault, Suzuki, Marty St. Louis. I also want to say one other thing. You talked about Josh Anderson being a big game player. When Kirby Dach went out, I think that really helped Alex Newhook. I think it gave Christian Dvorak more opportunity to play. And you never want to lose players in your lineup, but it feels like ever since he went out, the team has taken off.
Yeah, they have. They are red hot right now. The Habs. They are fun to watch.
It's not good for him.
Yeah,
no, it's not.
When you're the guy that goes out of the lineup and the team rockets to stardom, you're like, oh wow. Hey guys, how's it going? I'm back. No, you're not.
Hey, Jeff, has Kirby Dach's injury been the most significant thing in this run?
It could be. What a question. Yeah, they'll be asking that tonight on SportsCenter, I'll bet you, Craig. With Craig Button. And, you got Leafs Avalanche tonight where, you talk about the big boys with McKinnon in town and McCarr in town. And I feel like the Leafs, they need a signature win here. I think there's importance to that, Craig, where they haven't played great against, the best competition in the league. They haven't had like a big win in a long time against like one of the A-list teams. And Colorado's coming in. They haven't played since Sunday. They've been in town since yesterday. You're getting their A game tonight. Like McKinnon's ready. McCarr's ready. You're going to get everything that Colorado can throw at you. They did that 10 days ago in Colorado, and it got ugly for the Leafs. What do you think the Leafs have to do differently tonight? And do you buy into my logic that they've got to put their stake in the ground and beat a team like this just to start boosting their confidence as we get closer to the playoffs?
Somebody sent me a note yesterday, somebody that's been involved in hockey for a long time, and he said, and this is what his comment was, I paraphrase, he says, I'm not so sure that the biggest issue facing the Leafs is their own self-doubt. And when you run through the stretch of playoff shortcomings that they've had, it's hard to say, yeah, we can do it. When you go and lose to Vegas and you lose to the Colorado Avalanche, you lose to the Florida Panthers in the manner that they did, where they really weren't close, it creates that self-doubt. So my answer to your question, Brian, is I think they got to show themselves that they're capable of playing at this level. And Calgary, throw that aside. I mean, they just took advantage and were really good. But this is a different type of game. You use the word signature type win. And I think it's great to tell everybody else they need to get to that belief that they can do it themselves against good teams. And, we can go through, you need your goaltending, you need to play tight defensively, you need the scoring from your players and everything that goes with it. But I think that a win against a really good team helps this team in what I call the belief metric that says, okay, we now know we can do it. You start to doubt yourself more and more and more when you can't beat the good teams. And that's not a good place to be heading into the playoffs.
No, and I think that is at the forefront of any prediction for what's going to happen in the future, where ideally you end up with the first seed. Clearly. I mean, that goes without saying. That's clearly beneficial to have home ice, and you're going to play likely an inferior team, at least on paper. Maybe not the way they're playing and the way you match up against them, but on paper, you'd prefer to play Ottawa, Montreal over Florida or Tampa. But for me, it's not who they play, it's how they play. That's what it is with the Leafs. Like, the Leafs have got to show that they can get it done regardless of who you're going to play against. And whoever gets that 16th win every year, no one looks back and goes, well, they got lucky, they played this team, and they did. No, you earned it. You deserved it, and you proved you could do it. Done. Yeah, exactly. And that's at the forefront of it. And I get it. It's March, and it's a regular season game, and the Leafs are going to the playoffs, and maybe this game won't be remembered a week from now, let alone a month or a year from now. But that is, I think, is what you're speaking to, Craig. Like, it really Tampa, Florida, Montreal, Buffalo, San Jose, I don't care who they play in a best of 7. They have to prove they can do it. That's really ultimately what's at stake.
You made a comment there, showing that they can play, and playing against these big teams. And so when the Florida Panthers come into town, is there any doubt how they're going to play?
No.
Colorado's playing tonight. You know exactly how they're going to play. You know how Tampa's going to play. You know how Vegas is going to play. You know, and other teams now and like top contenders are showing how that you know what to expect. I think one of the things with the Leafs is, okay, yeah, to your point, Brian. Okay, you play Buffalo, you play a certain way. You know, well, it's not. You got to play. You got to play a style of game that what I call just bears down on your opponent and just takes the life out of them. Ultimately, in a playoff series, you start with game one. You're trying to kill their spirit. The quicker you can kill their spirit, the quicker you can win a series. The Toronto Maple Leafs have not shown they can kill an opponent's spirit.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, to me, it's about competition here down the stretch. And if they can get to their game, I guess the biggest thing is Craig, and we've been talking about this for weeks now. You just mentioned the Florida Panthers, the way they play, Vegas, the way they play. What is the Leafs' identity? I've been asked that 10 times over the last week and a half. What are the Leafs' identity? Is it defense first? Is it, four guys with skill? Like what, when we look at it, because that's something that we always say, play to your identity. What is that identity? What has the Leafs been, trying to get to it for an identity this season?
We should play a game of Where's Waldo. We should call it Where's the Leafs Identity, because I don't know what it is. I actually knew what it was 2 years ago. It was all about, offense. It was all about we're going to score, we're going to puck possession, we're going to play this way, and we're going to go. I don't know what it is now. I know what Craig Berube has talked about trying to do. I know he's had success in the past doing it. I know that he's been frustrated just listening to him this year with the team. And defensively, they're not stars. I mean, right now, the goaltending seems to be a real backbone of their team. I mean, where in past years, it was always Matthews and Nylander and Marner and Tavares. And, yeah, those guys have performed well. The blue line has been reinforced. But is there anything about the blue line that you go, geez, they're hard, they're heavy, it's a miserable group to play against? I don't know, James. I really don't know. And I think that's got to be concerning at this point in the season. Like, you're trying to establish who you are and what you want to be, and yet you're still in this kind of discovery phase.
Yeah, and again, it'll be exposed, in a game like tonight if you can't find it, and you can't find it quickly. And they've got the talent, they've got the depth, they're healthy. That goes a long way in March too. Mm-hmm. Like if you're a healthy team, that's very beneficial, and that's where the Leafs are at. When it comes to Colorado and their side of things, let me propose a question. Someone asked me this earlier. If I had an ISO cam on one player, either McKinnon or Makar, you could only watch the one guy play tonight, who would you choose?
Oh, boy.
Wow.
Talk about putting my feet to the fire. Wow. Here's what I would say. I would say put the cam on Makar, because I think Makar does more subtle things that are brilliant. Nathan McKinnon comes out on the ice and he just grabs your attention. You can't help but notice Nathan. I mean, to me, he plays every shift like it's the last shift of the seventh game of the Stanley Cup playoffs. That's how he plays, and he just draws you in. I think Makar, because he does, he has those brilliant moments too, but he does so many things. That overtime goal he scored against Dallas the other day, he grabs that puck, he makes a little delay, gets the puck, delays, kind of moves Ottinger out of the position, then just slides it. It wasn't, I wouldn't even call it a shot. I would call it like the proper weight in curling, if we're going to use that term. Just perfect weight, just inside the post, and Ottinger's like, oh my God, that puck's going in the net.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I mean about the nuance. And we see McKinnon, it's like he hits you over the head. Like like he says, you want to notice me? Here, bang, you get hit over the head. Makar, like I said, has a little bit more subtlety into his game. So I'd say put the cam on Makar. We know he's a great player. You might see some subtleties that don't show up as much as McKinnon's does. Yeah,
and he's going to play a few more minutes than him too. Like right, he could play 26, 27 minutes tonight and never look like he's out of breath, which is just incredible. And it should be a great game. It's going to be a great game. Only 2 games in the NHL tonight, and it is officially stretch run time. It's going to be a fun month. A month today, the Stanley Cup playoffs begin. A month today. That's how quickly it's going to fly by. Great catching up with you, Craig. We always appreciate you doing this.
I got one quick thing to say here. For every single Leafs fan going to the game tonight at Scotiabank, you know what? Act like the Montreal Canadiens fans did last night at the Bell Center. Get in there and make some noise and show some enthusiasm for your team.
I couldn't agree more.
Amen.
Get loud and get proud, as Doogie might say. And let's get crazy tonight and will this team into a good place.
No, start crazy.
Mindset.
Like, start the game. I always say this. Start the game standing up cheering like Montreal. And all they do is sit there and be like, if you don't score and fight somebody in the first 30 seconons, we're going to hate you. And it's just like, come on, man. Give us a nugget.
Remember the game earlier? When they had the fight with Reeves? I forget who he fought.
Yep.
And Austin Matthews said after the game, geez, I thought there'd be a little more juice in the building.
Yeah,
no
I'm
doubt.
not even so sure a fight's going to get it done.
I'm not sure it will either. But we'll hold our breath and hope it finally happens tonight. Tonight's the night, the start of a new era, Craig. Tonight at Scotiabank. All right, chat soon.
Thanks, you guys.
There's Craig Button joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Drive the built-in Canada fuel-efficient, fun-to-drive Toyota RAV4 gas or hybrid models available. Visit mapletoyota.com. That would be great. And this is one of those tickets, man. This is one of the 2 or 3 tickets you're dying to have.
Stay loud, stay proud.
There it is, Doogie tonight. They need him, Doogie.
What the hell was that for? What was he even
That's when we were at Boston Pizza.
Yeah,
We were
that's
on the
right.
road.
doing the show at
By the
Boston
way,
Pizza up in Vaughan.
speak about the ticket. Enjoy it while it's at this price because next year
They're going up. Yeah.
20%, 25 or something?
In certain areas, which, again, they're doing all these renovations, man. Like, you guys have been down in the rink. Like, it's
Dude,
pretty
I don't
wild
care
to
how
see.
much bank you have. Sooner or later, you get offended.
I
There's a
don't know
number-
how you could possibly justify in the world where our dollar is right now with the economy where it is. Like, we're talking seats that are basically in the up against the wall in the rafters. That
hot air balloon, and
it's like $10,000 or $12,000 for the pair for the year. Like that,
insanity.
you get 41 games. That doesn't include the playoffs. Like you got to pay more for the playoffs. It's an exorbitant amount of money, man. And it's taken. And listen, they're not alone. MLSE, the Jays. There's a ton of money here. You go to New York, you go to LA. There's certain cities where it costs a fortune, but it's out of control. The pricing and beers and hot dogs and everything is it's so expensive. It's so expensive, and it's just not in our nature though. Like I don't think in North America you really push back. Like that's the amazing thing. You talk to soccer fans over in Europe, they're paying like $20 a ticket because if the owner jacks it, they will riot. Like the fans will show up and like riot. And demand that you keep ticket prices at a reasonable price. Yeah. And that ship has sailed, a long, long time ago. But, MLSE, I guess their argument is, hey, this is the marketplace and people are going to pay and buy. And they're not wrong. They still sell out every single night. So, I guess that's business 101. That's capitalism for you. Supply and demand.
By the way, Hazy, I got a tweet from somebody that made a valid point about Vladdy, and he said – the reason he's doing it, he sounded like he was informed, is because he's pissed about the bashing he's received in ARB, so now he's fighting back.
That's fair.
Possibly.
I know.
Possibly.
I had to bring it up and mention it because it seemed kind of reasonable.
Well, if that's the case, then he's taking it personally. I think there could be a layer to that. Because they've had plenty of opportunities to sign this guy long term, and they haven't done it. So now it's to a point where, like, hey, we want you long term, and he's like, "What the hell with you? I'm going to see what's out there." Yeah. You had the last couple of years
happen.
to sort
you
it
guys know that I've been to ARB. I think this guy's gone 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, he's gone a few times, and generally they come to terms, and he gets a good price. He's still making a fortune coming out of ARB, like breaking records coming out of ARB.
Yeah, he's walking out of ARB like 18, 19, 24 million.
Oh yeah,
he's
up
not
at
like
29 million
of
or something
peanuts
this
and
year.
walking out the door.
Yeah, like you can say some horrible things to me for 29 million. Horrible things.
Yeah,
that would be a great off the record show. What would you be willing to accept for 29 million in ARB? Because I would be fine if someone said, "Well, you're not in shape. You don't take things seriously. You're a horrible leader." Be like, "Yeah, keep going. What else you got?
Keep it going."
What else do you have?
Cost us a playoff game in the second base.
Second base, one of the most boneheaded plays in baseball history.
Remember he was waving or something? What was his reaction? Remember he was late on
he
the
wanted
play
a review, and they said, no, you get off the field. You got picked off because he got picked up by a mile, and he's like, "You got to review it. I was safe." And Schneider's like, "Shut up."
Remember him
dude.
lying down like George Costanza, and he was like motioning for the replay.
He's like, "Gotta wave it.
Yeah.
You gotta review it. I'm safe." They're like,
That's
"No,
a
you're
T-shirt.
not."
That's a T-shirt, actually.
Yes.
You have Greg Norman laying there. Like
And
that's
Vladdy
that's
picked off at second.
Vladdy picked off laying there with the arm up. That's a T-shirt.
That was one of the worst plays. They couldn't manufacture anything. This guy finally gets in scoring
sleeping at
position,
second base.
and he gets picked off.
It's just, I don't mean to laugh. It's just, it was so ridiculous. Like, so ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. But that's Vladdy, and that's the Jays, and that's where we currently
That was
stand.
an ugly ending of a season, too. It was that and the Barrios getting yanked. And,
Yeah.
that
weren't
was
they
an
up?
ugly ending.
Wasn't
of a
there an
season.
8-1 lead against Seattle?
That was Seattle. That was the year before.
Oh.
Yeah, that was the year before where the first game Manoah was on the mound, I believe, and I want to say Robbie Ray pitched game 2, and yeah, they were up 8-1. They lost 9-8 or 10-8. It's just a complete and utter meltdown. Remember Springer? He was like concussed because there was a collision in center. It was.
Oh, that's right.
It was a disaster. All right, Gerry's percentages coming up. Darren Dreger will join us. Dustin Wolf for the Calgary Flames in about an hour. Leafs Avalanche tonight. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.
You're going to want to hear this.
Gerry's percentages.
I don't love being commissioner as much as I used to. I actually love it even more.
That's the voice of a Hall of Famer.
Are you kidding? Have you been out drinking?
You're all pigeons. Filthy, filthy pigeons.
It's Gerry. Gerry.
All right, Gerry's percentages. Gerry's been living large down in Florida. He's got the beard going. It looks great. Skechers, and he's feeling good, looking good, and he doesn't have a lot of time. He's getting on a bird back to New York, so I think he's just right into the takes here. You guys ready for this?
Yes.
Pierre LeBrun recorded them.
Okay, let's go.
Those pesky Canadians are starting to drive Gerry nuts. Because my precious New York Rangers won't snap out of it, and they're going to be golfing in a month. Because the Habs are playoff bound. And that's a Gerry's guarantee.
Wow, Gerry guaranteeing the Habs in, and you know he wants the Rangers in. He's dying to walk down to the Garden.
Man, that would
April.
bug him, the Rangers not being in.
Yeah.
I think Gerry, although he's the commissioner, he has a soft spot for those Rangers.
I think he does. Yeah, I think the Rangers,
for that
the
market,
Bruins.
Original Six, all of that, obviously, like that's a big, the Rangers are a big market there.
Monster.
Big
monster.
So,
But he's saying, guaranteeing it, that the Habs are going to make the playoffs.
where are you guys at?
I'm
I know where I'm at.
Okay.
I'm
say
gonna go
60%. I'll jump in quick. 60%. I think they're the pace car right now. I don't trust the other teams that much. I think Columbus, Detroit fading. Still time for them to come alive. I get it. But the Habs are kind of seizing the opportunity. Their goalie's red hot. That's going to go a long way. 60% the Habs get in.
I'm going to go 55. I would love some kind of general idea what their schedule looks like.
Well, I can find that for you.
Strength of schedule for the Habs you're talking about? There is
I'm going to give them 55 because they have to do it before you kind of elevate and go
They're
anything
young. They haven't punched
60
a
or
ticket
plus.
before. Yeah, I got you.
So,
okay, go ahead. I'm looking at their schedule right now. You give your answer, Noodles, and then I'll tell you how the Habs are going to kind of end their year.
I'm 42%. Maybe I'm going to go 40%.
Okay.
You just sucked the life out of the Habs talk.
That's still a lot
No,
of love.
no,
I mean,
here's
there's
the
4 or
thing.
5 teams in the hunt.
Exactly. Like that would be the highest out of the field. So I am still giving them the love, but I have to be consistent. I've been saying it a long time. This is a team that I feel is going to get 84, 85, 86 points. They might. I hope they break through it. Because to be a playoff team, you have to be. It looks like it's going to be high 80s or low 90s, like a 91 type of thing, because they're all playing each other. So, I think the Habs have been playing meaningful games, and yes, they had a terrible start to the season, been up and down, but there might be one more dip in there, and they've got to avoid that. That's what I'm saying. But I hope that. But the field is taking up the rest of that oxygen. They're the
Don't
highest
they have a
on my
ton of
list.
home games, Hazy?
Well, they're kind of it looks
play
like they're
some
more on
tough
the
teams
road
coming
coming up. They're at the Islanders tomorrow. That's a big game,
Yes.
massive game. They've got Florida 2 more times. They've got Carolina 2 more times. They got Colorado on Saturday. Yeah, so they've got some tough games, but they play the Islanders. They play Detroit. They play Boston. They've got a chance to play against these teams that they're competing with here. The Islanders again tomorrow night, where if you can get points in those games, you don't have to win all of them, but get points, you're going to keep the pace.
Well,
that's going to go a long way for them.
I'll give you an example. So we ran a board last night off of Money Puck, which is, a gambling, whatever. But they give, if the Habs won in regulation last night, their chances of making the playoffs were 27.3%. And if they've lost in regulation, it was like 13.4%. So they gave themselves a chance. That's still 1-4.
Crazy,
So I went higher. I went to 40%. Like that's where the numbers are right now. And because you're looking at, yes, the Rangers have played 2 more games. The Islanders are still there. Columbus is still there. Detroit's still there technically. Boston's still there technically. Yeah. So, you're having to fight off a lot of teams.
Well,
so
they've got a back-to-back at the end of the year, close to the end of the year, at Ottawa, April 11th, at Toronto, Saturday night, April 12th. Like, there's a chance their 2 biggest rivals are close to it. You throw Boston in there, clearly. Could either knock them out or prop them up and get them in.
Yeah.
And Ottawa could still be fighting for their lives at that point.
Yeah,
that could be a massive game. The Leafs, I would guess, will have punched their ticket by then. Who knows what they're playing for, though? They could be playing for the division or home ice. So, yeah, it's there's a number of road games. It's not going to be easy for them. But to their credit, Montreal, they put themselves in a spot where we can give these kind of percentages, because I wouldn't have given them 2 months ago, let alone 6 or 8 months ago. No chance.
Yeah.
All right, Gerry, what else do you have?
Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar sweep these 3 awards. The Art Ross, Hart, and Norris.
Ooh, man, that would be a sweep. Okay, so let me give you some details here. Nathan McKinnon, 103 points on the season. Draisaitl, 101. He's 2 back. And Kucherov is 8 behind him. I should point out, McDavid is 14 behind him. He looked pretty good last night. McDavid is still alive.
Count him? Are you counting him out?
Yes,
though?
he's not catching McKinnon.
Dude, no, stop saying that, dude.
McKinnon's got like 16 points in his last 9 games. He's not going to have 7 points down the stretch. I mean, McKinnon's going to end up with a ridiculous amount of points.
Yeah.
So anyway, McKinnon is leading in terms of the Art Ross pursuit.
I'm going to say 20% on all 3, Hazy.
Okay.
I think it's just too much. Like, you're just jumping all in. Like, you're looking at Hellebuck, you're looking at Draisaitl. To say that they're just going to mop up everything, I mean, they're that good where you could look at it that way, but I don't think it's happening this year. I'm going to go 10% on that. I'm 10%, man.
Okay.
I'm a little higher on that. I think it's, you're down. I think the races have narrowed. You're literally down. Your opponents are a couple people, and they are kind of the pace cars. So I'm going to go a little higher. I'm saying 30%.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on this too. I mean, the Art Ross is still a coin flip. He's like, McKinnon's got 2 more points than Draisaitl.
So you're giving him the heart.
I think it's him. I mean, listen, we've had this discussion. I can't sit here and say definitively he's going to win. No, I mean, that hasn't been determined yet. It'd be unfair to the other guys. Like, McKinnon's been great, but so is Draisaitl, so is Hellebuck. I think Makar's going to win the Norris. Let me put that over there.
That's fair.
I think Makar's going to win the Norris. As great as Werenski's been and Hughes.
Here's one crazy thing for you. If Quinn Hughes drags this Vancouver team into the playoffs, that's heart love, is it not?
I think this last 20, hasn't he been injured and he missed 2 different?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that cost him the Norris, to be honest with you.
Possibly. And listen, Makar might score 20, he might have 32 goals or something and 95 points, and he's playing an absurd amount of minutes, and his numbers are crazy. So I think Makar's going to get the Norris. And then I think it's between McKinnon and Draisaitl. I'll say 40%. I'll go higher than you guys. I do think the sweep is.
What did I say? 30?
Yeah, 30. It's reasonable. Like, McKinnon winning the Hart and the Art Ross is right there for him.
It's right there. All of them are very reasonable, and they're the pace cars, if you ask me.
Absolutely. All right, Gerry. What else?
Scheffler revealed his Champions Dinner menu for the Masters, and he better get creative for next year because he's going to go back-to-back green jackets.
Ooh, man, that's bold. You never see that at the Masters.
I'm 15% on this one, man, where I would usually be a hunch. I would be a hunch on Scotty Scheffler, and I don't know what kind of ravioli he was making when he cut his finger off, but he just hasn't been Scotty Scheffler since. He's lost some magic, man. He must be so mad at himself that he did that, or kind of just like stumbled his start to the year because of that, because he hasn't been the same guy, man. And I know it's difficult, and it goes back to Tiger Woods to see how impressive, because Tiger Woods did that every single year, man. Like, showed up at Torrey, he'd win, go to Arnie's, win, Players almost win, Masters win. Like, it was just, that was Tiger's way of life. And Scotty Scheffler is something that's just not there. I mean, he could go to, Hayes, you talked about his play on, like, he dominates that golf course, man.
Man, he does not make mistakes.
No.
At that place.
Like he just knows how to carve it around there, and he hits it long, and he birdies every par 5, and it's like 67.
Yeah. I mean, when was the last time we had a back-to-back at the Masters? Like, I honestly don't know. It might have been Tiger. Did he win in 04 and 05, was it, I think?
Maybe. Phil did. I know that.
Phil. Okay, so Phil probably did it.
Bubba Watson, maybe?
I don't think he went back-to-back. I think he went 2 over the course of like 3 or 4 years.
It was Tiger Woods.
It was Tiger?
2001, 2002.
Okay, so Tiger the last. So we're talking almost 25 years, and it was Tiger.
Yeah,
So,
I'm going 10%, man.
Yeah.
As good as he is, he doesn't. If he was cooking right now, I'd go higher, but I just don't think he is.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
I'm
Go ahead, Noodles.
I'm low on this playing the field. Back-to-back, tough to do.
Yeah.
I just I'm going everybody else. Not everybody else, but I'm
He
saying
could
like
win it for sure. I mean, he's
10,
that
12%. Like, there's 5 or 6 guys that could win it, and he could be one of them. But I think back-to-back, not playing his best. Like, to me, I was trying to think if this wasn't the tournament he went to the Clink. That was in Kentucky.
No, that was at the PGA at Valhalla. Yeah, that one
That was
really
one of the
twisted
craziest
him up,
things
man.
I've ever seen, man.
It's still one of the most outrageous stories.
Crazy story. Breaking news.
The best
Scotty
part of the
Scheffler.
story when he's in the back of the cop car and he's so mad, and the one cop has no idea who he is, and he's like, "Is Tiger as good as they say?" And Scotty, the cop asked Scotty that. He's like, "Is Tiger as good as they say?"
Yeah.
And he was just losing his mind in the back of that car.
And then the video comes out, and he did basically nothing wrong. He maybe could have explained himself better or moved a little bit.
Somebody was being a hero, man.
Yeah, like it was a crazy scene. There was a death on the scene, and everyone was kind of out of sorts. But he was told, like, players go that he's number 1 player in the world going to the golf tournament. And the guy gets arrested. And he made his tee time, which is crazy.
I know.
That was not. I can guarantee you that would never happen at the Masters.
No.
Like the police force, you'd never see them ever again if they tried to pull that at Augusta.
No.
I'm gonna say I'll say 20% because I think Noodles, you just said something that's important. There's like 5 guys that can win this.
Yes.
Generally speaking, like you do the numbers. Every once in a while, you get an underdog story out of nowhere. Those are cool. But it feels like it's 5 or 6 guys that are really going to be in the hunt, and he's going to be one of them. So as he hasn't been awful. He hasn't been great. Like he set a bar that was so high, but he's still, he's under par. He's kind of in the hunt. He's getting a little bit bitter out there. He's kind of yelling at himself. He and his caddy are kind of feel like they're out of sorts a little bit. But he's got a few weeks to figure it out, and that place can bring out the best in Scotty Scheffler. So I'm not going to completely bet against him. All right, Gerry, what else?
Bob Manford should spend less time on his short game and more time on being the commissioner of baseball because he's let the Dodgers absolutely lap the field without any pushback. Ohtani wins MVP and the Dodgers win the World Series again.
Well, yeah, Dodgers are 2-0. Thanks for coming out, Cubs. fly all the way to Tokyo and get spanked twice.
Dude,
by
I told
Ohtani
you
and the
yesterday,
Dodgers.
when that call comes in, if I'm the GM or the owner and they're like, you want to go to Japan, play Ohtani for a couple of no thanks.
Yeah.
No thanks.
That
Let
would
somebody
be-
else go there.
Yeah, exactly. Or I'll play somebody else. Let me go play the White Sox. All right?
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's go play the Chicago White Sox.
So you had to fly across the world to get just crushed. And for what?
Yeah, exactly.
I just don't understand those games. I know it's all about money and building the game, blah, but if I was an owner, I'd be like, hey, don't even call us to go over there, especially if we're the Cubs and we're playing the Dodgers.
These guys. And Ohtani hit a home run today. It didn't really look like it actually left the park. Like a fan kind of reached out and grabbed it. But, yeah, the Dodgers are 2-0. And if you're the rest of the division, you're like, great, thanks, Cubs. Like, we're still in spring training, and the Dodgers are 2-0. It's crazy. This guy, he's so good. I fully expect he wins the MVP. I mean, there's other great players, obviously, in the National League, but I think if he's going to pitch again this year, which is expected, that's just going to boost the value because he's going to do something different, right? There's not going to be anything stale about him if the guy goes out there and pitches and has like a 3 ERA coming off Tommy John.
I don't think there's ever been a lock for an MVP that now that the guy's pitching this year, I don't think there can be any bigger lock for an MVP.
It
and I
feels
know
like
we discuss all the time how many good players there are in taking the field. I would never veer away from anything but him on the MVP.
Well, it's his to lose. That's the way you feel like it. And like if he needs to have an off year or an injury or something like that for somebody else to take it. That's the way it looks because he's
Absolutely.
so dominant.
He's so good. He's so good, and he's gonna hit 45 home runs. You would think, like at a minimum, he probably hits 50 plus. May not steal as many bases this year, but and the Dodgers, they're just so much deeper and better than everyone. It's a defeated attitude, but it's not really. It's about promoting greatness and just appreciating it and seeing it and acknowledging it. I mean, feels like they win 2 out of 3 all year, and like their floor is like 105 wins or something. It just feels that way. Like they're going to win everything. They're pitching. They got guys on the IL who are studs, and it doesn't even matter. I'm going to say 65%, which is crazy when you think about it. 2 games into the season. Ohtani MVP, Dodgers win the World Series. 65%.
I'm 80, and that's an insane amount.
That's
80.
insane.
It is, but I'm comfortable with it. I'm comfortable with it.
I hear you. Yeah. It's like Mahomes and the Chiefs. You'd say Mahomes MVP, Chiefs Super Bowl. You're like,
I'll bet you a hunch. You want to take everyone else? I'll take Ohtani and the Dodgers World Series for a hunch.
Wow.
Sure, why
I'll
not?
take it because it's the field.
Yeah, you'll take
You're
the field.
playing the field.
Everything I just said.
I'll take you both on,
and I want because I'm a degenerate.
Yeah, and I want everyone listening, watching to let us know when they do that you guys owe me a hunch.
Well, the odds are so short. Like on FanDuel, they're like it's like minus 200 that they win the World Series. It's crazy how good they are. All right, there you go. We got some Gerry's After Dark. We'll get to lots of good Gerry's. Gerry's on fire right now.
That was a good one.
Gerry's been really good lately. He's been really good.
He's dialed in, man. He knows what's coming. He knows the Stanley Cup playoffs start a month today, and his busy time's coming up, so he's really flooring it. Gerry's After Dark still to come. Dustin Wolf still to come. Drake's coming up. Our best bets. Leafs Avalanche tonight. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Darren Dreger, Dustin Wolf still to come. Leafs in action tonight. Dodgers, again, they won today. The Tokyo series at the Tokyo Dome. Nice 2-0 starts for the world champs. And we're talking about the odds. It's crazy. Like you're getting no value at all on the Dodgers winning the World Series, Ohtani winning the MVP. No, and in reality you can't. Like if you're FanDuel or any of these books, how can you? You can't give great odds on that. Now, second in the National League, JP pointed out, is Juan Soto with the Mets, and that is reasonable. Like if he has a great year on a new team, and
no way, dude,
it's possible.
Dude, he's a 35 homer guy. This guy hits 55, steals 50 bases, and now he's going to pitch.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I'm not even believing it as I say it. I mean, I'm fully expecting Ohtani wins again. All right, we sent Al's brother out into the city with another pair of Leaf tickets. You have to guess where he's hiding for your chance to win them. Let's hear the third clue of the week.
Hey, OverDrive fans, happy Wednesday to you. I'm back with another clue to get you one step closer to finding out where is Al's brother and scoring yourself a pair of Leafs and Flyers tickets for March 25th. Here is your Wednesday clue. Cherry blossom season is right around the corner, and this is one of the best spots in Toronto to see them.
What, you do that at 3 in the morning?
Yeah, no kidding. Like, what's with the background? Do you think Al's brother has ever seen the cherry blossoms?
I really do.
Wow.
Do you think he has? You think he's walked through Hyde Park and has, like, soaked it in? He's a guy that appreciates that.
I think he is. I think he's had a date in Hyde Park.
Okay. Well,
Cherry blossoms, let's go.
All right. Tune in tomorrow for another clue. I guess we just gave it away. But the first caller through on Friday with the correct location wins a pair of tickets to see the Leafs play the Flyers March 25th. Find Al's brother is brought to you by McAlpine Ford in Aurora, our family, the Ford family, and you. Someone actually, after we were talking about Al's brother and bringing a charcuterie to a park, someone tweeted in and said he brought his now wife on their first date, Charcuterie Hyde Park, back in the day, and he said it was just an instant connection.
Wow.
Yeah. He said it's a great
So
play.
he went in the back seat of his car and wheeled out a charcuterie board.
That's
into
what he
Hyde
claims.
Park.
Popped
Yes.
his trunk.
He said,
It's
meet
in
me
the
in Hyde
trunk in a
Park,
cooler.
right by the Blossoms. I have a charcuterie for his first date. And it seemed to work, so maybe that's the move Al's brother's pulling off. I don't know. All right, final hour coming up. Dustin Wolf, best bet still to come. Leafs Avs tonight. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.